there, look, Sergio Perez and Lando Norris, and joining up now, Valtteri Bottas at bottom of the hill, down at turn 8. Is he going to go for it? Down the inside on Perez, he is going to go for it! Valtteri Bottas, what a move!
Winners and losers of the F1 testing weekend. What can we say about the F1 teams after the testing weekend? Hello and welcome to our coverage of the 2023 Formula One preseason testing. 3 days and almost 4,000 laps later, all 10 teams have wrapped up their testing programs, giving us a glimpse into what we can expect from the upcoming season. Although it's important to keep in mind that testing data should be taken with a grain of salt, we now have an idea of where each team stands and what they're capable of. With the Bahrain Grand Prix just around the corner, teams made the most of this limited window to fine-tune their new cars and keep an eye on their competition. Join us as we take a closer look at the highlights and insights from the 2023 F1 preseason testing. So, as the preseason testing for the 2023 F1 season wrapped up on Saturday, some teams were smiling while others were not so much. Now the question is, who needs to step up their game before the Bahrain Grand Prix kicks off next weekend? Let me be clear, we ain't trying to predict who's going to be on top. Just want to point out who did well in the test and who didn't. McLaren. During testing, McLaren struggled with their car and completed the fewest laps out of all the teams with a total of 311, which is 42 laps behind Alpine. Surprisingly, the car's wheel brows caused the most trouble for McLaren, as the brakes overheated and melted the inside of the brows, reminding the team of their brake issues in Bahrain last year. However, the problems with the MCL 60s seem to extend beyond this, with both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri finding it difficult to control the car. McLaren's dissatisfaction with their winter preparations also reflected in their performance during the test, indicating a less than promising start to the season for them. Mercedes. The good news is that Mercedes has resolved the issue of their car's porpoising that caused problems in the 2022 season. However, the bad news is that the car doesn't seem to be on par with the reigning champs Red Bull's performance yet. The results of the testing are not in line with the narrative that Mercedes promoted throughout last year, which claimed that if they could eliminate the bouncing issue, their car would not just win, but dominate the competition. It also raises the question of whether the time Mercedes spent trying to solve their 2022 problem allowed Red Bull to gain an advantage over them. In previous years, Mercedes has consistently been at the top of the testing mileage charts, but this year, they were only in 7th place with 398 laps. A hydraulic issue also caused George Russell to miss the final 90 minutes of testing on day 2, affecting their performance. When assessing the car's performance, Mercedes struggled with traction at times, and Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap on the final day was over 0.3 of a second slower than Red Bull's best time, which was set by Sergio Perez using the faster C5 tire. Although the car is more stable than last year, there's still a lot of work to be done if they want to catch up to Red Bull and be championship contenders. Williams had a better preseason compared to last year, but it's important to note that 2022 was a disastrous season for them. They completed the second highest number of laps, and the new FW45 seems to have fixed many of the issues that plagued its predecessor. This gives Williams the possibility of being in the mix with the midfield teams on a good day with a good driver. However, Alex Albon's best time on the final day using the fastest C5 tires was overshadowed by other cars using slower C3 tires, suggesting that Williams still have a long way to go to climb up the grid. AlphaTauri topped the lap charts with an impressive 456 laps during the compressed preseason testing, but it's important to question the significance of this achievement. In a short testing schedule where any loss of time would impact a team's position significantly, winning the mileage competition is no longer relevant. Although AlphaTauri finished in the top 6 twice, their position is questionable considering almost all other teams have improved their cars from last year. Reports from trackside suggest that the AT04 is still under steering, so it remains to be seen if the lap times will translate to success on the racetrack this weekend. Haas. After the entertaining presence of Gunther Steiner in the Netflix series, the focus shifted to the actual testing in Bahrain. Haas's performance was consistent and unremarkable, similar to their driver lineup, lacking the excitement of the previous year's test when they realized they had a race-worthy car. This year, there wasn't much to draw attention, as it seems the team is in good shape for the 2023 season. Ferrari. Trying to interpret what Ferrari's performance means in Bahrain, it appears that the SF23 has not regressed compared to last year's car, but there is also no significant improvement either. This isn't surprising, as the team has stuck to the same low-drag design philosophy as before, despite Charles Leclerc stating that the car is faster on the straights but slower through corners. The overall sentiment within Ferrari seems positive. However, rumors of severe tire degradation suggest that the same problem from last year may persist. It remains to be seen if Ferrari can only compete with Red Bull during qualifying, or if they're fast enough to also challenge Perez and Verstappen during the race. Alpine. Alpine had a quiet testing session with neither of their drivers featuring on the timesheets, instead focusing on longer runs with the harder tires. Although this could be a cause for concern, the team remained confident despite facing a car engulfed in flames last year and having their best season in years. Despite logging the second lowest number of laps and being the only team to go slower than last year's Bahrain test, both drivers spoke positively about the A523, and the team is quite confidently heading into the first race. They're also expected to be near the front of the midfield. Alfa Romeo. The indications from testing are that Alfa Romeo may be about to repeat their success from the opening months of 2022, during which they scored a large portion of their points. While the final day of testing was not perfect, with Valtteri Bottas stopping with an engine problem, the C43 has emerged as a quick and well-balanced car. Although Zhou Guanyu set the fastest lap on day 2, the real story lies in the fact that the car appears to have eliminated Alfa's biggest weakness from last year: instability in fast corners. Therefore, it wouldn't be surprising if Alfa Romeo makes a strong start in Bahrain once again. Aston Martin. Due to Lance Stroll's injury, Fernando Alonso took over Aston Martin's testing duties and drove in all 3 evening sessions, giving him the opportunity to experience the most representative conditions before the start of the season. Meanwhile, Felipe Drugovich, who's potentially going to replace Stroll for the Bahrain GP, only managed to complete 117 laps during daylight hours, which was not ideal. However, Aston Martin's focus will be on Alonso during the upcoming race as he gears up to give Mercedes and Ferrari a run for their money. Testing gave a glimpse of Aston Martin's real potential, with the AMR23 displaying excellent performance on the track. It seems that Alonso is ready to fight and could pose a significant challenge to the top teams at the beginning of the season. Red Bull. Despite widespread speculation that Ferrari and Mercedes would close the gap to Red Bull during the offseason, few anticipated that the performance standard would raise even higher in 2023. However, this appears to be the case, with the RB19 being a more advanced, polished, and lighter iteration of last year's championship-winning car. The car exuded pace and topped the timesheets on 2 of the 3 testing days in Bahrain. Max Verstappen was so pleased with the RB19 that he gave the whole final day of running, which was the best time for optimal conditions and quickest laps, to Perez. This demonstrated the confidence within the Red Bull team, who will begin the season as clear favorites. And that's a wrap for the 2023 Formula 1 preseason testing. It remains to be seen how these races will translate to the upcoming races. The Bahrain Grand Prix is just around the corner, and we can't wait to see how the teams will fare on the racetrack.